Okay. All right. We are live. Let's take a second just to make sure we're showing up in the group. And we are. And we have people waiting to join us. Yay.
Hey everyone.
Okay, cool. Well, Marissa is here, and I'm just going to jump right in. I'm really excited. I have a new friend to introduce everybody to. This is Justin Gottlieb, and he is here. He's here to introduce us to Tantra. And some of you are really familiar with it, and some not. And so get yourself settled. The best way to operate in this today is when you hear something that's interesting to you, to type it in the comments. So as you're digesting new information and you type it, it's good cheat notes for everybody who's watching on the replay, but also it's a way for you to digest what you're learning. So Justin is the owner, coach, and healer at the Tantra Love Coach. He travels around the world and right now is in the East Coast, but lives in Florida. So welcome, Justin. Happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Shane.
So tell us first, what did you used to be before you were a Tantra coach? Just so everybody gets a good feeling of who you are.
Yes. So I was, I guess you might say, a typical bro. I went to a Big Ten college. I was a fraternity guy. I moved to Manhattan right after I graduated, and I was in finance for 7 years or so. And then I moved into sales at an online advertising company. So I was really deep in the corporate world, living that lifestyle until I moved to Miami and had my spiritual awakening, which was just about 4 or 5 years ago.
Excellent. And how did you, just to plant a seed, how did you find Tantra? How did you find spirituality? And welcome everybody who's jumping on live.
So I was always interested in Tantra, but didn't really know what Tantra was from a young age. Once I kind of came into my sexual power, I was always drawn to it. I was drawn to massage. I was drawn to nudity. I was drawn to self-love. I was drawn to speaking and advising on relationships and love and sexuality. So it was always there. But again, I wasn't spiritually woke, if you will. I wasn't conscious. So there wasn't much for me to do with it except be with lovers in maybe different ways than many of my friends were. And then I did find Tantra. In fact, I was starting to do more research online, but never did I think that I could actually become a Tantra healer or go down this realm and quit the regular normal life that, I was so accustomed to. And I did get a tantric massage when I was in Germany at, the age of 22. So there was interest there, but not enough that could ever get me to jump into the risk and craziness of being a Tantra healer.
Awesome. So a couple of weeks ago, I have an advice column and somebody wrote for my local paper and somebody wrote in what's Tantra? And they were just rambling and I answered it. But if you had to speak to a newbie, somebody who was I think I've heard that word. I know it's sexy. Is it sexy or not? What would you say Tantra is for the super beginner who is conscious, who is awake, who is seeking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a loaded question that I get all the time. And, like we talked about a little bit, is I try to make the spiritual practical, right? So asking what is Tantra is kind of like asking, what is Christianity? It's not something you could just kind of give a quick answer to. But I like to find a way to do that because there's so many misnomers and miscommunications about Tantra. So what I say it is, and this is my definition, is that it is really bringing consciousness into your self-love. Okay, so bringing an awareness to what is going on with your sexuality, with your love, with your relationships, how this is coming out within you and outwards towards others. And of course, there's a small sect of Tantra that is about actual sexuality, and we could certainly get into that. But to me, you could really define Tantra as love, and it involves meditation, it involves yoga, it involves breath work. And it also can involve energy work and touch and things like that as well.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I think and everyone in this group pretty much knows it, there's not a lot of black and white answers. And I think that's why I love these interviews, is like really giving people a chance to hear about what you teach, what you're passionate about, and then if they're interested, they could follow up. So if somebody's only watching for the first 5 minutes, how can they find you, just so that they could, like, if they're busy at work or whatever?
Sure. Tantra Love Coach is the name of my company. At Tantra Love Coach is my hashtag, is my Instagram. TantraLoveCoach.com is my website. Tantra Love Coach is my Facebook page. So basically, if you type in Tantra Love Coach anywhere, you will find me. You'll find contact information. And I'm going to be in New York this coming Monday through Thursday offering Tantra sessions as well.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to open up the Facebook and let's see. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, you can write them in the comments and I will ask. Ooh, I just got excited. My teacher is watching. So let's see. What's the most popular question that you are asked, or why do people come to you? Like, if they're like, hey, I want a Tantra session, like what's happening in their lives in order to reach out or go to a workshop or seek you out?
So first of all, Tantra seems to be, at least my experience, something like ayahuasca or something. It just kind of calls you. It's not something like every day you're like, oh, another Tantra teacher is hitting me up. It's something that kind of comes to you. First, you hear it a little bit. You learn a little bit about it. Then someone may come into your space with a workshop or offerings like I offer. And then you go, oh, this is resonating with me in some way, shape, or form. And then you kind of get very inquisitive. Now, I attract all types of individuals, men, women, couples. Some have had physical, emotional, or sexual trauma in the past and are really looking to move past that in their lives. Others have just feel like they're blocked up. There's some sort of energetic blockages within their body that isn't allowing them maybe to create the relationship they want, or it isn't allowing them to really feel free in their body or create the orgasmic energy that they want. And others come to me and they're just like, I'm very curious. I'm super cool with how I am and what I am and everything. But like, wow, is there a way I could have a bigger orgasm? Is there a way I could try this other type of orgasm? Is there a way that I could create more intimacy? Is there a way I could improve my relationship? So there's really a lot of different realms you work in, I work in. And when it comes to men especially, they're really looking to become conscious lovers. Women are asking for it and men are really responding. And I do coaching with men a lot of times to support them with issues around sexual dysfunction or porn addiction, and also really just to come into their own of like, how do I date in this world of swiping and superficial dating and really where it's about validation for sex for a lot of men? How do I create a new relationship with my sexuality, with my self-love?
So good. There's so much available, and I'm aware of it. There's so much available for women in terms of like dating and communication. And so the fact that you brought that up, like how do men date when, and this is kind of a clusterfuck, like women are so advanced, la, 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 but we're advanced, like women are advanced with their own selves, but how to bring their wokeness or their consciousness into dating, because a lot of times the dating piece or the relating piece is where the shadow is, and they go back into like 16-year-old shadow messy stuff. Yeah, so how do you, like, people, I think that's a really great starting point or a continuing point, is that when men are like, shit, I'm dating, I don't really know any alternatives, but whatever I'm doing right now sucks. How do I, what would you, like, either it's advice or what would you share with them?
Yeah, and sometimes they don't even know that it sucks. It's just literally the only thing they know. That's it. They know that, like, you go to bars, you go to clubs, you go on Tinder, and they're like, this is dating, but they are feeling like something isn't quite working, and they don't know what other outlets there are. And then they run across someone maybe like a love coach or the work that I do, and they ask, and they're really asking for help. A lot of times, I mean, when we talk about conscious love and conscious dating and conscious sexuality, to me, the first starting point is, what's your intention? And most people don't have an intention for their dating. They're just out there doing whatever and don't realize that they're just doing it for validation, or they're just doing it because this is the way it was done, or because this makes them feel like a man, or because honestly, sometimes they're just like reprogramming and re-going along with the same patterns and the same situations that hasn't worked for them for their whole lives, maybe from trauma, maybe from just lack of knowledge or lack of consciousness to what they're doing. So setting an intention is step one, and figuring out, what do I want to accomplish? Because it's okay to be like, I want to accomplish, meeting lots of men or women and experiencing what it's like to date them, experiencing sexuality in that sense. You don't need to be like, I need to find my, one and only. But finding that intention is sometimes a huge breakthrough for people, because then they're just like immediately, oh my God, like, of course things aren't working out the way I want. I'm looking for one thing and doing everything the opposite way.
Amazing. So I'm not sure. So Nahum signed on and he said, I'm not sure if he heard your answer, but and this is like, you're going to be asked this a million times from a lot of people that I know, is, in simple terms, what is Tantra? And let me say, so what I heard you say is like self-love, self-awareness, possibly in connection with someone else.
Yeah, you don't need a partner for Tantra. The actual Sanskrit word, Tantra, means weaving, and also it's been defined as expansion. So imagine weaving your masculine and feminine energy together, weaving all the different energies you have, moving your sexual energy to manifest things, not just, orgasms, but other things in your life. And then expansion. How big can love be? How big can orgasmic energy be? How much intimacy can you really create? My belief is in what I teach in Tantra is limitlessness. There's literally no limit to how much you can love. There's an abundance of love. There's an abundance of sexual energy. The problem is we're not conscious to that. So we just have it trapped in our first two chakras when it comes to sexual energy.
Okay, cool. Where are our first two chakras?
So our root chakra is our first chakra, and that is kind of where you have your grounding, your home, your foundation. And this is where a lot of the gunk from other chakras kind of trickles down to. So it also brings up, if you have issues around scarcity, issues around money, insecurity, that's all that root chakra really holds. Think about it. It's your base. It's really what connects you. Your legs are extensions of your root chakra. And the second chakra is your sacral chakra, your sexual chakra. And clearly that's a lot of where our sexual energy comes from, and where, that one's pretty self-explanatory. But we tend to trap everything down there, not intentionally all the time, but think about our society. You go to a psychologist or a therapist, they're not able to really work with that sexual energy anything more than just speaking of it, which is your throat chakra, which is great. But to move energy that's really stuck, to have trauma released, sometimes it requires breathing, it requires vibration, it requires physical touch, and mudras, which are energy circuits that we use during Tantra massages.
That's so good. So good. So as we go, if you have any questions, it's good to ask. Don't wait until you think it's right, because you said a lot of great things just now. And if someone missed one or two, I always want everyone to be clear and to really understand. Okay, so Anna says, interesting subject. I'll catch the replay. I'm driving. Wouldn't Tantra be regarded as sexual healing?
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of people call it sacred sexual healing. And I think that's great. Some people I've talked to have an issue with the word healing or healer, because they say, oh, well, everyone heals themselves, so how are you a healer? Well, I'm not into names or whatever. I call myself what makes sense to most people. Again, I'm very practical, but I am creating space with what I do, and other Tantra facilitators are creating space for people to have whatever they need to have come up, whether it's in a session, whether it's in a workshop. I don't know what's going to happen. I did a meditation with a group of women around the yoni, and some women had breakthrough experiences where they were crying, and other women had other totally different experiences, and I don't know what's going to happen. But I believe a healer simply creates a space for healing. And of course, yes, it's then that person's, ability to heal themselves, or readiness to let something be healed.
Amazing. I love that. A healer, I don't know how you said it, but you create space for healing to happen. That's great. Yeah.
And the thing could be said about a coach or an educator, right? The problem with our education system is we're stuffing information into people. An actual educator, to me, is someone who draws forth the answers from their students, right? Allowing them to be in the question and figuring out exactly what the answer may be for them. Because once we start telling people this is the answer and this is what you have to know, we lose our creativity. And that's what Tantra is all about, is actually expanding on your sexual creative energy. And people miss that point. They're like, oh, it's about sex. Well, no, this is the energy that creates another human being, procreation. Like, this is the most powerful energy you have to work with in your body. I haven't heard anyone argue that point. This is energy that creates another human being. What else can you create with it?
So good. And I think, for me in my business and in life, we're all creatives. And so our emotions are created. And so I really want everyone to hear what you just said, is that this is sexual creative energy. You choose where you want to direct it. You choose what you want to do with it. It could be with a sexual partner. It could be your business, your art, anything along those lines. So
I always recommend, a lot of people I coach will say like, oh, I'm stuck in this area. It's my job. Maybe they're an artist. Maybe they're a writer and they have writer's block. I tell them to go do a self-pleasure ritual. Like, what? I'm going to go masturbate right now? That's going to help me? Yeah, if you do it consciously, you do it with an intention of like, I want to create right now. I want whatever to channel through me in my art, to channel through me in my profession. Okay? And leverage that energy by moving it up your body and see what happens.
So this is really powerful. Like what you're talking about, like the erotic energy, eros, like it's untapped energy that we already have, right? And you're right. Like I think you said it earlier that, men who are porn addicted or who have like judgments about like what sex is or what masturbation is, men and women, actually. This is a different way in that is more spiritual.
Yeah, it's bringing consciousness to something that like we just don't really think about. And to me, the sexuality and our sexual creative energy is the most important energy. It drives everything in our lives. It drives our like when you think of the domains of life, family and relationships, fun, recreational activity, all these different areas are deeply affected by the intimacy, your vulnerability, your sexual creative energy, moving and being free in your body, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be about sexuality. It's like how many people actually feel free in their body, don't have any, shame or guilt around their body, around love, around sexuality. So, I mean, you don't need to work with a tantric practitioner to experience Tantra. You don't need to have a lover. You can do this all on your own. I actually recommend, of course, you could have a coach or someone, but I recommend you first start with yourself. In fact, women that come to me for sessions that have partners, I often say, of course, it's your choice, but if you want to have a couples massage, I suggest that you first start with an individual work for you, because you get to actually see what's happening here on your own. What is your own energy working with?
So good. So you mentioned two things. So massage, and you also mentioned breath. And someone asked, what kind of breath work can help awaken the Kundalini or Tantric energy? So this sounds like someone who knows a little bit. But if you want to share, like, what are some, maybe give a little tiny breath work lesson, like something that people can be like, okay, I did something.
Sure. And there's different variations to this, and it's pretty simple. It's generally the breath that I ask my clients to, I teach them to do when they're in a session. And it's very simple. You breathe through your nose into your belly. Fill up your belly, fill up your ribs, fill up your chest, fill up your shoulders. There's always more, right? Feel what it's like to be full. And you can hold it there for a while if you choose, or you can let it out very, very easily through the mouth, not pushing it out, not anything like that. And then you have the option to also be empty. Let it all out. Feel what it's like to be empty. I find there's a beautiful meditative space in that fullness, as well as in that emptiness. And these are two spots we often miss in life. We're just simply like breathing in and breathing out. Well, how about those moments at the top and the bottom that you can work with? Now, I try not to get too complex when we're in session. So I'm basically like, breathe deep into your belly through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. And also, breathing in as if you're breathing in, for women, into your yoni, as if your yoni is bringing up this air and this energy. That's where the breath is coming from. One thing that I read in a book that I absolutely love is that spirituality and sexuality are actually two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. And our spirituality, that energy moves upwards, while the sexual energy moves downwards. So we can actually really create a very healthy relationship with spirituality, with the universe, is if we're moving this energy up and down together. The problem is when we only are moving our spiritual energy up and we kind of get lost into the air, or all our sexual energy is down and stuck and we're just in this place. And that's where a lot of issues can happen with sexual dysfunctions or, porn addiction or things like that.
Got ya. There's so many questions here, but if anybody has a question, it's like I ask questions that I think people want, but it's so much better if you ask the question. And I also want to say Justin is in this group. So if anybody's watching on the replay and you have a question, please type it in here. Let's see. I can ask a question or you can just share. I think if, let's say, somebody's feeling adventurous and they want to do something with their partner, what makes the most sense? Do you want to share like what it would be like for somebody to work with their partner, or what a session would be like with somebody alone?
Yeah, so I actually created a guide for what we call a tantric date. And it's something I'm happy to offer free to your viewers.
We love goodies here.
So just reach out to me, and in due time, I'll send you over this tantric date guide. And I specifically created it for... There's some crazy thunder and lightning storms here in Jersey.
We had that last night.
I'm an LBI, so if you hear that, that's why. But I created this tantric date guide so that you can do it solo or with a partner and a lover. And I did that specifically because too many people think, oh, it's a date. A date is with me and someone else. Well, no, you can have a date with yourself. And one of the big breakthroughs around that is like, imagine taking out the time, setting up the space, the quality of touch that you would do to someone else, the most amazing lover you ever met, the woman or man you've wanted to call in for their whole life, but doing that for yourself and to yourself only. I'm talking about scheduling in your calendar, 2-hour block that you don't let anything else get in the way, no distractions, no phone, etc. That's what this date is about. So you can do that with yourself and you can do that with a lover. So this guide is just a kind of intro to that. And the interesting thing about it is there's no sex or there's no release or anything like that I've added in there. Now, if you choose to do that, great. But I wanted to show that really this like Tantra work is what you want to make of it, what works for you. I give tools out there and I allow people to try them on. And if some things I say and I teach will work for some people, some won't, that's great. Tantra is about you and you finding what works for you when you create this new relationship with your sexuality, with your love, with your heart.
That's great. So someone just asked a question. I feel like that's the answer. And it's trying to understand what's the goal of Tantra. It's a very linear question. What's the goal of Tantra, or is it different for each person? And I think it's actually a really good question. It's like very masculine, right? Which is like, what's the goal of Tantra? And then is it different for each person? So kind of a nice balance right there. But what you just said, do you want to say it again, or in whatever way you want to say it? It's getting to know your, go ahead.
Well, I'll even give it a better definition because that's what this 2-hour, tantric date is also about. But also people ask me, and what we try and do in Tantra is get away from any goal orientation. Great. So what I say to people is the only goal here is for you to be present. That's it. And imagine if that's the only goal when you're with a lover, is both of you to be so present to each other that every touch, every eye gaze, every scent, every taste was like there was nothing else in the world. So if you can be that present,
yes,
you're Tantra right there.
So good. And you said it somewhere along the lines, but like you don't even realize sometimes you're being tantric. And I think the opposite of Tantra is like, okay, make out, touch boobs, suck dick, have sex, have an orgasm, go to sleep, right? Where it's like mechanical, it's like, what's next? What's next? And instead it's like, there's nothing else except this moment. And like, what's here now? And what's here now? And I love that. And so sometimes giving those opposites, because that's what I knew growing up. It was just like, okay, I'm going to let him do this, but not this. Like, there was a lot of like calculating going on in my head, which was exactly opposite of being present. So like, I have no rules except I'm going to honor my experience, honor my desires and pleasures, and like, see what happens. And this needs so much fucking training because we're so programmed to be like, you can't have that. Don't take that from me, or I'm going to take this. And that's pretty misogynistic and pretty patriarchal and blah, blah, all the yucky stuff. So, so if somebody was like, you know what, I'm fucking curious, what would it be like? Like, you come to their house right away, or like, do you have a session? Like, what does it look like to get to know you and work with you?
Yeah, so there's kind of like a stereotype of Tantra is just like, oh, it's just slowing things down. You just go really slow and whatever. And that is actually truth, right? Like, how much pleasure can you find in stillness, right? What's there for you when you don't just rush into the pumping and the screaming and the this and the that? What else is there for you? So when I work with someone, it is a slower process, right? It's not like someone called me off of Yelp recently and was like, hey, can I have a Tantra massage in an hour? And I'm like, whoa, I have a client intake form that could sometimes take you an hour to fill out. I want to know everything about you that's important for me to know for this session. Some people in sessions will go into process, right? That could be an emotional release. There could be projections. There could be all kinds of things that are going on in this session. I need to know where that might be coming from. So I'm asking questions about sexual past, relationships with family, even things about, if you have children, how you were birthed, what that experience was like for your parents. So I'm really trying to get a really good painted picture of what's going on with you. Then someone would come over. In Miami, I have a Tantra Temple. So people would come to my temple and get to experience that, which is beautiful. When I travel, I'll either have a space, or for next week, I'll come to individuals at their home and I'll set up the space for them. So it's not like you're just going into your bedroom, for example, to have the session. I will set it up in a way that when you walk in, you'll go, oh, wow. And that's my goal when I work with women, is they walk into the space and they feel like the goddess they truly are. And unfortunately, some women haven't felt that in their whole lives or in way too long. And then we talk about what's gone on in the client intake interview. What are the important aspects of that? Something that I think should deserve some more discussion. And then from that, I know where to flow, right? So generally, the sessions are pretty similar as to what I do, but sometimes, for example, someone that may have issues around body image or self-love, I have different exercises we can work with in that. Someone who may not have that realm, maybe we'll go into a guided meditation and we'll drop into, a safe space together. Others I'll be doing more in the realm of breath work. So it really just depends what's happening with that individual at that time. And then eventually we'll move into the energy work and the body work.
Amazing. Such a good answer. Yeah, really clear. So we have a couple questions. So one is, would you believe that the root chakra is the best, in quotes, chakra to pay attention to?
I mean, if there was one to look at for anyone and that's it, I had to pick one, I would say it could be the most important. But it also depends on the person. Listen, there's some people whose throat chakra is so closed that they don't speak their truth their entire lives. Is that taking away more than maybe feeling like insecure or having issues around money? I don't know, who's to say? But certainly if you look at the chakras and how they're aligned, with that root chakra kind of being the basement, as I was taught in Tantra, like the gunk can kind of end up there. And when I say the gunk, I mean the trauma, the energy blockages, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a great place to start, and it's also your foundation. So why not start there and see what goes on? When I work with my clients, I typically can tell by the exercises I do and the questions I ask what might be blocked within them. And that doesn't mean I don't focus on the other chakras as well, but it's just good to know, okay, this is an area where there may be a blockage.
So good. So good. And then the next question is a little esoteric, but I'm going to ask it. So tantric work might not, because we love Gregory and he has amazing questions. Tantric work might not have a goal, but people talk about enlightenment. But what is enlightenment?
That is a great question. I might sidestep that because I don't know, maybe you'd want to ask like a Buddhist monk, because that's kind of like what their thing is. I'm not trying to, have people necessarily reach some sort of level of enlightenment or anything in that realm. But something that is really important that might be enlightenment is self-love, right? So like, what is self-love? To me, you can't be enlightened if you don't have full self-love. So I talk about it in one of my blog posts because a lot of people don't. They just kind of assume like, all right, are you worthy? Or they throw out all these words. But to me, self-love is feeling that you are worthy of love. And also, and this is the part that usually takes the most coaching, is are you acting in ways that serve you in your life. Okay? Because you could love yourself, but you could still be doing detrimental things to you on a regular basis and maybe not be conscious of it. So to me, working on those two areas is being worthy of love and what that looks like, as well as what it looks like to make sure that what you're doing serves you in your life. And it could be very difficult. And that's why it's really important to have a coach to notice these things and then to support you in creating habits that do serve you.
Amazing. Yeah, I think like it depends what your priorities are, right? And so if you're living, whether you're in a partnership or not, if things, if they feel stuck, I would think like, I really agree. Like it's so he said good sidestep. Yeah, I think it's really important to have a coach because there's things we just don't see. Like everyone can get a book, right? But like all the trainings you've done around the world and working with Charles Muir, who I like to think of as the grandpa of, maybe he wouldn't like that, but the grandpa of Tantra, it's actual workshops and practices. And so getting steeped in that and really understanding the body and understanding the psychology of it, and speaking to you for, the time that we spoke, anyone can call themselves a Tantra coach. And pretty much these days, it's interesting because a lot of people are learning by intuition and self-study, which is amazing. But really, what would you say to people who are like, okay, two things. I'm going to go to the library, or I'm going to look on Craigslist and find someone who's called like a Tantra coach, or someone who's like, yeah, come over in an hour, and that person shows up. Like, what would you say to everybody is like a red flag, or like be aware? Don't just fuck around and like pick up some dude who says he's a Tantra, orgasmic provider, pussy stroker.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to vet anyone you're working with that's going to work with your sacred energy.
Great.
Like how many reviews do we look at sometimes before you go to a restaurant? And now you're going to be like laying down with someone who may be working with your body or working with your sacred energy. Do your research. They should have some sort of training that they can point to, and you can do your research on that training. They should certainly have past clients and testimonials. I have literally, my whole website is basically testimonials. I don't have that much more information than that, because that's to me how you're going to experience like what this is all about, is the results that my clients get from this. Anyone who calls me up, whether it's for men's coaching or couples or anything like that, women's Tantra sessions, I will have multiple people to refer you to tell you about the experiences they've had with me. I think those are absolutely key. And also like how much integrity is this person in their life presently? Okay. There's some people that came from shadow past, but presently, are they in integrity? So these are things that are not so hard to figure out, but certainly don't jump into it, because you're right. Anyone could say they're a Tantra practitioner, and it can do some damage to you. For me, my biggest goal in anything that I'm doing is that people feel safe with me. If you don't feel safe with me for any reason, don't work with me. Great.
I love that. And that's really ties in with my intention of, having this group, is bringing people that are, either people I've worked with or people that I've spoken to, or that have been referred to me. Yeah, because I'm taking responsibility of like sharing a ride with people of like who's here. So let's let people know the details. I mean, of course, they can also just message you from this. Like, you can find everything online. Justin's available in that way, but he's going to be here in New York for a week. And so if your body resonates, if your body's like, you know what, I don't know what the hell this is, but I feel like I'm curious and this might be the person for me, I would say, listen to your pussy, listen to your cock, listen to your body that's speaking to you. That's like, let's just, have a phone call, like check in. And I think you also mentioned like you have an initial, like a session to just say hello. That's free.
Yeah. And I offer a free phone consultation. So if you feel like this calls you in any way and you just want to learn more, you're like, oh, I don't know exactly what goes on in a session. I heard this happens. I heard that happens. I'll go over all the details. I'll go over pricing with you. So you'll be able to really feel comfortable in your decision. And I'm also vetting my clients. I don't just work with anybody and everyone.
Right.
So
right.
If I don't feel that we're a good fit, or I feel like it's not a good fit for me for whatever reason, then we'll part ways, and I could always refer you to someone else. But absolutely, you can't really go wrong with giving me a call, setting up a phone consultation, and going from there.
Awesome. Awesome. So is there anything else you want to share with people that are watching live or on the replay? Yeah, anything.
Yeah, just that I feel like this is such important work. I really believe everyone should feel free in their body. And if that were to happen, if everyone were to feel free, all the blockages were unblocked, the shame and the guilt were away, we all could be free to run around naked. We could all be free to like feel into our sexual energy and our boundaries and do these things. We would have world peace. I truly believe that. And I think this is the part of world peace that isn't looked at enough, which is how do we treat each other when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to love, when it comes to relationships, but from a way of sacred sexuality, from a way of Tantra and this path, or whatever other path works for you. But with the Me Too movement and all these other things that are coming up, and we're shifting in a beautiful way, there's an emerging of a new man, a new woman. Everybody is involved in this. So get involved yourself. Learn about Tantra, learn about just being conscious with your relationships with your partners. Woo!
And so it is. That's amazing. Okay, cool. I wonder if that's headed over here. Yeah, God has spoken, or whoever, goddess. Great. That's great. I love that you said that, because I'm really a big fan of leaving no one behind. So this isn't just for the sexy people. This isn't just for the creepy weirdos. Like I remember back in the day, I think it was Real Sex on HBO. I was like maybe 20. And there was there's a certain look back then to like what Tantra people look like. But you're like a young, handsome Jewish guy. And to me, that's really funny because I think it's really important to be aware that this is for everybody. And no matter what age, gender, religious background. I like to make Jewish jokes, but other than that, like, it's really important that no one's left behind, and that you could think you're overweight, underweight, not sexual. You could have not had sex in 25 years. I mean, I have some of my clients who are just like, I haven't had sex since my wife passed away. They're like 60. And the cool thing is that I think it's so important. And so if you're looking for a teacher, find a person. Like, if you're interested right now and maybe it's not the right, like, keep in touch with Justin. Maybe there's a different time, or who knows what it is, but it's really a way to change your own world first. And then you can, start to, it has a ripple effect. And so don't be left out of this new way of relating. And you mentioned Me Too. And I think a lot of people are just like freaked out and up in arms. And a lot of my men clients, and men just call me, are so, they say they're so fucked up. They don't know what to do. They're just like, I don't know how to flirt anymore. I feel like I'm going to get in trouble. And so when you have the confidence, when you spend time, money, and energy working on your sexuality, there's an ease in your body or a relaxation that's like, I'm okay. I'm not fucked up. Or if I'm fucked up, at least I can own it, or, whatever that looks like. But you've given so much information that's really beautiful and valid. Let's see. Okay, we have a bunch of thanks. Let's see what we have. A couple of comments to close. Gregory says, thank you. I love it. So a saying that one of my teachers says often is, the rule for spiritual teachers, I don't even know what this means, is caveat emptor. I don't know what that word means. Do you?
Emptor?
Emptor. Gregory, I don't know what you mean. I don't know, but it sounds like you're just grateful. Is that okay if we leave it like that for a moment? Or explain and we'll read in the comments after. Oh, he said, thank you. Okay, cool.
I just want to leave everybody with one thing, and it's the top thing on my website, and it basically says, you all deserve to be free and experience limitless love and pleasure in your life. If you don't feel like that's you, then try out Tantra. Try out bringing some consciousness into your love, your sex, your relationships, your dating. And thank you for being here to listen to this. This is the first step.
Amazing.
And thank you for creating a space. This is amazing.
Yes, it is. And we just have 800 people in this group as of yesterday. So
wow. Congratulations.
Woo! Yeah, thank you. I love 8. All right. Well, thank you, Justin, so much for taking the time and for showing up. And then, like I said, he'll be here to answer questions. And just to keep it really simple, you could just friend and private message him, but
Tantra
also
coach
follow.
Justin Gottlieb.
Yeah, I don't know many men these days that are, I don't want to exclude anybody, young, passionate, and willing to travel to home. So take advantage. All right, everybody. Have a great afternoon. Justin, thank you, and enjoy your magical thunderstorm that's happening.
Thank you. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye.